Hello guys, today I'm going to show you some common mistakes for new 3D artists in Maya, and how to avoid them, and how to fix them if you're happening to have them. So here's a model from one of my students, which looks good in the viewport, but it has some issues with its geometry. And why is geometry important when working with a 3D model? It is important in many different areas. For example, if you're animating a 3D model, um, it can behave strangely if the geometry isn't intact or isn't logical or isn't good. While UV mapping or laying out the UV coordinates for texturing, it can produce bad quality, and the tools in UV mapping doesn't work as well if your model has no good topology or geometry. In rendering, a bad geometry can produce strange result in highlights or in shading or in general. And in rigging, a mesh can deform strangely in joint areas where there are deforming happening if the geometry is bad. And my favorite point is that the tools in Maya, which you have here, the quad draw, target weld, multicut, and all these, they don't work as good as they can if your geometry and or topology is not as good as it could be. So the main question is how do you create good geometry? My rule, or what I try to do as much as I can, is to always keep my models in quads. And what do I mean by that? A quad is a polygon, so it's um, a face or a polygon with 4 edges or 4 sides. This is a quad, and as you can see here, my student have quads on every polygon. Here are four vertices, and that's a quad, and that's good. But for example, this area here, if I just do 2 vertices here, it exists of 23 vertices, so that's definitely not a quad, and it can behave strangely. Some other areas where there ain't quads are, for example, let me isolate that. For example, in this area, here you have a triangle, and triangles, when modeling, when doing the stuff I just told, you should try to avoid them, but sometimes you can have them and it's okay, but generally it's good if you can avoid them. Yeah, so try to keep everything quads. That's my first tip or rule for beginners. Try to keep it as much quads as possible. And if you plan your model good, you can almost every time keep it in quad. So trying to keeping everything is quad is my first rule. My second rule is every point or vertices should only be one, so they should always be intact. So if I move this vertex, it should behave something like this. But we can see, for example, in this area here, we have a vertex which is directly on top of another. So if I move this one up, you can see it stayed there because it's 2 vertices directly on top of each other. And that's something you should avoid as well. Another thing you should avoid is having a face directly on top of each other. Okay, so for example, if I select this edge here, or face, so if I press this face and press delete, there's still a face here. That's 2 faces on top of each other. The same goes for this one, if I press delete, and this one, if I press delete. So that's double faces, so I have to select it, delete, and select it, and delete the other one to come to the inside. So that's faces on top of each other, and it's another thing you should try to avoid. A good a way to detect if you're having this problem with double faces or strange vertices is to smooth your model. So if I smooth my model here, I can directly see, if I just turn this up, I can see that something strange is going on here, and also in this area. It looks a bit strange. If I just create a quick model here, create polygon primitive cube as such, and I extrude it, extrude this, and yeah, I change the model a bit, maybe something like such. If I smooth this model, for example, I can see that it's smooth and logical all the way around. It's all quads. As in this model, strange things are happening, as you can see. So that's something you can get used to, using smoothness to detect problematic areas. And there's a third common mistake about among new users, and that is flipped face normals. So as you can see, my model looks like this. And sometimes a face can be inside out. So if I select these, go under normals and press reverse, you see that they turn black, and that's indicating that they are pointing in the other direction. I will illustrate that soon. But now I can see it, but sometimes maybe you have a different render on and the model looks actually quite still okay. You cannot detect the problem area. Then you can look at the normals under display, polygons, face normals. And now you can see these little green arrows pointing in the direction of the normals. And as you can see on this face and this face, these normals are pointing here. But for all other faces, they're pointing in the direction right out, kind of, as you can see. So if I once again flip them back by selecting them and going under normals, reverse, you see they're pointing out again. The way I detect this is if I just delete this part so I can see the inside. Double faces again. I'll take this here. I can see the inside of the model. I can activate under shading backface culling, which is not active right now because I am in the wrong render mode, viewport rendering mode. So let me turn that back. So now I can see, if I activate shading backface culling, you can see right through your model as such. And if I select these edges here and go under normals, reverse, now I can see them from the inside, and if I go out, I can see through them. So faces have sides, and that's important too. So let me go back to the model as such, and I can take away this again. So display, and once again then face normals as such. So that's the problem areas. Number one is vertices on top of each other or not connected, faces on overlapping faces that are on top of each other, and also faces that might be flipped or reversed. And that these three things are the number one common mistakes for new 3D users. So how do you fix this? What you can do, I use this technique for the first issue which is vertices that are not connected. I just go into vertices, select every vertex on my model. As you remembered, we had one of those areas here. If I can select that one. Yeah, so I select everyone on the model, and then I go under Edit Mesh, Merge Component, and here always merge two vertices together. I have checked, and this value is, if I have it too high, every vertex will go into each other, so I will use a quite low value for this model. It depends on the size, so as such maybe, and then I press merge, and now I go on the where I had the issue, and now it looks alright. So that's how you fix vertices on top of each other. And how do you fix the next part then, when faces are on top of each other? So if I select these two and delete them, these two and delete them, they're still there because there are some faces on top of each other. What I do now is I select all the faces on the entire model, and then I go under Mesh, Cleanup, and here I can find this option which is Remove Geometry, Lamina Faces. So Cleanup, Matching Polygons, Lamina Faces, Remove Geometry. If I do a cleanup now, it cleaned up my model and it took care of these double faces. And as such, now I can start working with my tools. If I just go to the before model, where I still had the problem, if I try to use my tool like multicut now, I would like to cut it from one side to another, but I can't. If I do, yeah, actually I can. On this side I can't, as you can see. Here it stops. It doesn't want to go to the next side. It's because of these faces. So if I now select all the faces and go under Mesh and then again Cleanup and make Cleanup, if I now use the same tool again, you can see it works just fine. So that's the reason why I want to fix it. And the last part was you should try to keep everything as quads. So let me show you how I would do this on this model. I would mainly use the multicut tool, and for example, cut here, and here, and maybe something like that. And on the other side, so from here to here, and from here to here. Now I should see how can I fix this. Maybe from there to there, and from. So I'll just make a cut here also. So I know they are not directly the same, these two sides, but it doesn't really matter for now. But let's continue. Yeah, from here to here, same on this side. And then I will make another cut here, and from here to here, and same on this one. I know this is a bit long, but it doesn't matter either. And here I can see some areas that my cleanup fixed, but it took them away. So I will just merge these together as such. Yeah. And then I think I will move these two here up a little bit, and I'll continue with the cut tool for now. So from there to there, I'm soon finished. So I think I move these two up here a little bit, and actually I think I should solve this something like yeah, that's good actually. So I'm a bit tired right now, so maybe so, maybe so, and maybe as such, and then yeah, that's actually good. This one, this one, and this one, this one, and also this one and this one. So this looks about right. Yeah. And actually I think I will take off of the model and delete it. Ah, wrong part. Can do a select invert selection. Delete those. And we could scale these in the X as such. And now we could do a mirror if we move the pivot point to this area. And now then mesh mirror geometry in that one. Looks about right. Definitely not perfect, but it's close enough. So if I smooth this model right now, it looks like this. And it seems to me there are no problem areas. So that's how you fix a model. You merge all the vertices, you clean up all the faces on top of each other, and if there are faces that are pointing in the wrong direction with normals reverse, for example like this, be sure to select them and go under normals and reverse them back. I would also like to show how the problems can happen. When you're modeling, one of the tools you'll use the most is the one called extrude. So if I create a cube here, and let's say I use extrude on some faces here, maybe this one and this one. So if I just press extrude, the extrude has already happened, and if I do not put in any values, it will be 0. But if I press enter, the extrude has still happened. So if I undo the extrude and I smooth the mesh, you can see what is happening. It turns into kind of a ball. But if I would have happened to create an extrude here with 0 value, if I now do the smooth, it behaves completely different. And that's because there are faces directly on top of each other, as you can see. But you can see them when they are on top of each other, directly on top of each other. And it's easy to do this mistake because maybe you do an extrude, you do the extrude, and then you kind of forget about it. And then you said, ah yeah, I should do an extrude. And you do the extrude, and then when you smooth your mesh, it looks strange, like what is happening here? And that's because you have accidentally done two extrude on top of each other. Other common areas or common problematic can be, let's say you have your model here, and maybe you duplicate it with Control V. Now you have two meshes, right? And they are directly on top of each other. Maybe you happen to polygon combine them to one object as such. Now, if you select faces and delete them, they're still there because it's kind of the same effect. But that's also what can happen for new users. So you see, this is a broken mesh. It should be like a ball. So once again, I could use my technique. I select all the vertices, go under Edit Mesh Merge Component with a low value, and then I go select every face and go under Mesh Cleanup and Lamina Faces Cleanup. So you can see, now it works as it should, or as expected. It behaves correctly. There are no longer any double edges here. Oh, sorry. Yeah. So, yeah. So that's the problem for many new users in Maya, and that's some techniques to fix them. Oh, there's another problem here. Yeah, actually there's a problem. I tried to use the mesh tool, append polygon tool, and press here, and then on the other one, and accept that action, and it created the face, but it was inverted, as you can see. Normals, reverse. So it's easy that these mistakes happen. Why did it happen right now? I think it happened because of the append to polygon tool option, maybe. And it could be keep new places planar should be activated, maybe. No, it should be mesh tools, append to polygon tool. Maybe it should be. Why is this happening right now? I do not understand. I think it's mesh. Actually, I do not know why this is happening. Let's see what's that happen if I. The issue I have right now is that this is also good that this happened. This is also a very common mistake. Now this tool doesn't behave as I would want it to. As you can see, it creates the face, but it creates it in reversed. So why does it do this? Sometimes Maya has a history of many actions. And you can see all these actions if you go on the Window Rendering Editor's Hypershade, and then you go under this one, which is called Input and Output Connection, when you have your model selected, and you will see all the connections or all the actions that you have done. You see there, this is all my split edge tools and cleanup, and every action is recorded here. And sometimes this network of actions make strange things happen to your tools. So it's also a very good idea for new users to go under Edit, Delete All by Type History, because sometimes that is the thing. that it does the problem. As you can see now, it worked after I delete the history. My tool worked exactly as I wanted to because I deleted the history. And that's also a very good point for new users to think about. And that is all for new users in Maya and the most common mistakes and how you avoid them, and if you have them, how you fix them. Thank you.